Reed Richards is one of the more fascinating characters of the Marvel Universe. How do you humanize arguably the most intelligent man on the planet? Perhaps the smartest man in the universe? What challenges do you bring him? Reed has been given more than his fair share of obstacles, and that has created a man with an incredible burden on his shoulders. Because aside from the genius, the one thing that marks Reed Richards is his heart. The one tenet that Reed Richards' father, Nathaniel, instilled into him was the importance of trying. Not worrying about success or failure, but the important thing is that no matter what, Reed must try. And as his intellect grew and his desires followed, the smartest man in the world had to try to solve everything. Whether it's saving a cat in a tree, saving the little clone Bentley from his fate, or protecting a world that is doomed to tear itself apart, he says, quote, "I want to build a different future than the tomorrow I see on the horizon. What kind of man am I if I don't do everything I can to make that happen?" That is Reed Richards in a nutshell. Across universes and across timelines, that is the crux of the character. A massive part of that desire is first made through guilt, the thing that plagues Richards the most. Before he was Mr. Fantastic, Reed brought 3 of the closest people in his life to test out a spacecraft. The calculations were done by Professor Reed himself. He was so sure of his abilities. Reed trusted his mind more than anything, even to the point of arrogance. He is the smartest man in the world, after all. But when an accident occurs and cosmic rays fall over their ship, it changes the group forever. Seeing some of the different perspectives of the accident and its aftermath penned out by various writers and artists, it's incredibly traumatic to imagine Reed's reaction to the love of his life turning invisible, seeing her brother scream out in agony, and withstanding burns that should incinerate the average person. And Ben who can't change his appearance, who can't go back to normal. Ben who becomes a living, breathing, and walking thing. Ben who can't enjoy the same life anymore. A man who tried to take his own life because of it. For Reed, this is his fault. The 3 are a reminder of his arrogance, and Ben, most of all, who he has to look at every single day, is a reminder of his failures. They are the primary source of his guilt. There's one chapter in Hickman's run that takes Reed thousands of years into the future, where he finds a still alive Benjamin Grimm. And finally, in the year 6012, Ben finally dies. Reed's best friend outlives his family, his friends, his lover, so many years over, by more than a couple millennia. And Reed is forced to watch what he has done to his best friend, as his immortal nephew, Franklin, is his last link to Reed, Sue, and Johnny. And that's only because of the serum that the Future Foundation crafted for him. That is Reed's fault. Waid's Fantastic Four run has Reed lament over the accident, and he calls himself arrogant. He didn't prepare, he didn't shield them. And thanks to them, they were fated to be freaks. He destroyed their lives, and so he's done everything he could to ensure that Ben and the others are loved and appreciated by the world as an apology. Reed Richards was always written to be someone who isn't the greatest with people, but better with numbers, math, and science. Ryan North's portrayal of Reed is neurodivergent, most comfortable around the predictable and the deterministic. I think the accident has a lot to do with the comfort he finds in the predictable, because those cosmic rays weren't. Every single thing that Reed Richards does, every worry, every calculation, it's to prevent himself from failing again. And there's also a part of Reed Richards that is self-loathing. Because he is supposed to be the most intelligent person in the world, he believes that he should be able to figure everything out. He should be in control all of the time. And that stems from the accident. It's the same reason he doesn't do well with magic. Reed needs logic, order, reason, not a feeling, not the unknown. Accepting magic means accepting things beyond your understanding and control, leaving things up to fate and chance, and Reed struggles with this. But Reed's guilt goes even further than that. He even feels for Dr. Doom, his nemesis. Reed was of course there in college, moments before Doom's accident, warning him about his calculations, resulting in the explosion of his workspace and his scar. But Reed claims that he doesn't feel guilty for the accident, but he is angry at himself for not having been respectful of Doom's intellect, which Von Doom took as a slight. Reed feels guilty for the little thrill he got from proving himself smarter than Doom, the feeling that plagues Richards the most. Time and again in these stories, Reed places himself in positions to make decisions for people around him. These are always logic-based, numbers-based conclusions that Reid takes on by himself, and sometimes even to his own detriment. Because he often makes these choices without consulting those around him, partly because he tends to forget about others' emotions, and partly due to his arrogance and guilt. He calculates the probability of success and failure in every situation. And if he believes that his methods will lead to the highest chance of people being safe, he will make the decision, often without consulting anyone. And for Reid, these choices are made to protect not only his family, but the world, so that Reid doesn't fail once again. Richards' father planted a lot of these seeds that adult Reid would have to grow to accommodate. There are a lot of different emotions and desires and doubts that Reid has at the hands of his father. Nathaniel abandoning his son is a potential reason for his intense desire to solve everything, and can also contribute to his self-loathing. It is only natural that since his father left him at such a young age, that a part of Reid wonders if he left because of him. A part of Reid believes that it's because of him. So he has to dedicate so much of himself to proving to himself that he is worthy enough of sticking around. And so Reid failing his friends, his family, it hurts him because of course he has hurt his friends, but he's also let himself down. In his mind, his father was right in leaving him. Vindicated. When you effectively abandon a child at that age, these are the feelings that arise. Nathaniel abandoning his son is also a reason for Reid's desire for control. He could not control his father leaving, so now he craves control everywhere else in his life. When he was arrogant and failed to do so, he hurt his family. After that, his desire only grew. That's the point of contention in so many stories involving Richards. That's how you humanize the smartest man in the world. That's how you challenge him. In North's Run, Reid doesn't warn Ben and Alicia that they won't see their child for a year. He simply makes the decision to move the Baxter building 1 year into the future, because his decision has a 99% chance success rate of saving everyone inside, including their children. But then Reid gets chewed out because Ben and Alicia now won't get to see their child for an entire year, and they are justifiably worried and angry. In Zdarsky's 2 for 1, after Reid led Ben and Johnny to believe that he, Sue, and the kids died just because they wanted to leave the hero life behind, Ben points out this similar line of thinking. Big Brain Reid thought something about his best friends and didn't once bother to ask for their opinion or their input. It's a reoccurring event with Reid. He tries to be good, but he is a flawed man. He is a human. We see it time and again with the Illuminati and Planet Hulk, for example. His neglect and endangerment of his family at times. And more often than not, it's either because of his desire for control or his pursuit of knowledge. This lust for knowledge that Mr. Fantastic has often becomes his own undoing. Susan many times has told Reid that it is okay not to know, that no one knows everything. Learn from me, if not by my precepts, at least by my example, how dangerous is the acquirement of knowledge, and how much happier that man is who believes his native town to be the world, than he who aspires to become greater than his nature will allow. This is a quote from Frankenstein that I think can be applied to Reid to illustrate how he flirts with the dangers of the pursuit of knowledge. Reid's greatest challenge, which I admire about the character, again, is that he wants to know everything. In Hickman's Fantastic Four run, the reason the Council of Reeds flourishes is because Reid, at his core in every universe, in every galaxy, in every reality, desires to learn everything. Reid's father also placed a lot of pressure on Reid before he left, placing all of his hopes and desires in Reid becoming something far greater than Nathaniel. It wasn't only a father's hope and belief in his son, but for Nathaniel, this is an expectation, he says. He expects him to be a better friend, husband, father, and a better man. So Reid has the burden of not only being a genius, but the burden of his father who expects him to be great. What better way to be a great man than by solving everything? He's often warned about that path, and with the Council of Reeds, he gets a visual warning. He sees what he can potentially become. In fact, he sees what all versions of Reid Richards becomes. But he's also a product of his father, another person who, through the pursuit of knowledge, sacrificed everything. In issue 531, a creature that the Four discover finds despair in Reid's heart. That despair is in the form of the quest for knowledge. He warns Reed to not become a question in living form, seeking forever to answer and understand why, to understand himself. He urges Reed to stay grounded and to be present, for all that matters are the moments we have in between, which is what makes the Council of Reeds fascinating, because they all represent what Reed aspires to do. They have all become these human questions. When he's introduced to the council, the other Reeds call it a good place made by great men. Never do they define themselves as good men. They've all lost their way. They have sacrificed love for knowledge, and Reed almost does the same. But the one thing that differentiates these Reeds from our Reed is love, an uncompromising love. The one thing that differentiates these Reeds from our Reed is his father. In Hickman's run, we learn that there are only 2 Nathaniel Richards left. When our Reed's Nathaniel wins the deal, the quote, game, it's revealed that our Reed is the only one to have grown up with their father, even somewhat in his life. Nathaniel notes that Reed has the character to be both good and to be great at the same time, a rare characteristic, one that Nathaniel does not have. Nathaniel is not a good man. A good man would not have left his son. A good man does not compromise or sacrifice his goodness. And these words ring true when Reed realizes that all of the Council of Reeds have all given up love for knowledge, and Reed refuses to do the same. Reed also questions himself. Is he like his father? Does he have enough good inside of him to be better than Nathaniel? They are all men who sacrifice the good in their lives to try and be great. Reed, like his father, struggles with this. But he is a better man than his father, and he overcomes this. When you are the most intelligent person in the world, you have a responsibility to your fellow human beings to protect them. That is the burden of genius. People often misconstrue Reed's intentions because they appear to be arrogant, a man more interested in being right than he is about saving people. But let us not forget that it was Reed who led the 4 to become heroes after explorers. And time again, Reed demonstrates how his goodwill is unending, just as his abilities are. Not only to his family, but to his friends. Reed has become one of T'Challa's closest friends, a confidant, along with people like Doctor Strange. Reed supports T'Challa as a brother, and even allows their fates to be permanently tied together at the hands of things that he doesn't even understand, the ancient gods of Wakanda. But he has faith in his friend, and so he follows through without hesitation. To return to that chapter that shows Ben's passing in 6012, after finally seeing Ben pass, he returns to the present and he spends time with his best friend. Reed's grand ambitions for knowledge and for the world can often lead him away from spending time with those that he loves the most. And I think it's also worth noting that while Reed does have an air of arrogance and a smugness about him, I think he is quite humble, never relishing in the fact that he is the smartest man in the world. Instead acknowledging his responsibility, using his intellect as a reason to help people. I think he is decently grounded. Reed is a good teammate. No pun intended, he is malleable, versatile, and his genius can be plugged into any team. I think that's why he's a prominent member in so many teams. Whether it be the First Family, the Illuminati, the Avengers, and that's because a part of that genius is recognizing everyone else's capabilities and how to use them in tandem to make the sum of all of his team's parts that much greater. It's what makes Susan Storm the perfect match for Richards, because he is always willing to defer to his wife. When she speaks, he listens. When she counsels him, he listens, sometimes. He may be the most intelligent man alive, but he has someone right next to him who would move mountains for him, and he is smart enough to listen when she speaks. Susan is often the moral center of the group, the one who reminds them of their why. And Reed, especially in North's run, is receptive to that. He is trying to be better. Reed is always the first to extend this love to his enemies, to those who oppose him. In North's run, Susan makes note of how Reed can look past prejudice, past hate. She says if the smartest man in the world can see a Doombot and see hope, he is special. When he was approached by the leader of Latveria, who was looking for his amulet to rescue his mother, even after attempting to kill Reed and his family after all of those years, Mr. Fantastic gives Victor the lodestone to try and save his mother. In Hickman's run, when our Reed sees the vegetative Dooms, he fundamentally believes that it is wrong to strip Doom of his higher functions. When Reed is put on trial for saving Galactus, he says that, quote, "Who are we to make such a decision to allow another living being, any living being, to die, when ours is the power to prevent it? Reed has and he will save everyone who needs saving, whether that be Doom, Galactus, or the Silver Surfer. Whatever lives can be saved, and that is what human compassion demands of Reed Richards." Reed might not be the best with people, but that doesn't mean that he doesn't care for people. He's proven over and over again that he would sacrifice knowledge for saving lives. He does not want to sacrifice any lives ever. Maybe because he doesn't often have these tearful apologies or breakdowns, but Reed is a human too. He feels and he cares and he worries, sometimes more than anyone. In Lee and Kirby's run, Reed's willingness to sacrifice himself at whatever cost for another is alive and well when he is ready to die for Ben's sake. Quote, "I'd have given my life for him 1,000 times, Reed laments. And we see that time and again over the years, like in New Avengers and other stories. Reed is always ready to keep his family safe. Johnny notes in Zdarsky's 2-in-1 that being Reed Richards isn't about being super smart or having powers. At the base level, being Reed Richards is about being selfless. It's about helping people. The discoveries they make, the desire to bring a greater tomorrow. Reed loves knowledge and the discovery of new knowledge, of course. But more than that, he is a decent man who puts people first. These discoveries are in service to the people. If it does not benefit mankind, most of the time he will not indulge it. His father said that for brilliant men, compromise weakens them. But Reed is something greater. For Reed, compromise does not exist. His family, the world, is not something he will compromise on. Reed is not a perfect man. He is a man marred by his mistakes and his failures, whether that's what happened to the Four, what happened to Ben, or even something like not telling Sue and the family about the council. But he can always admit when he is wrong, and I think that's what makes him a decent man. And Nathaniel is what separates Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, from the Maker. Our Reed grew up with a father who saw his son as someone with a gift, someone who can be good and great, and that made him act accordingly. While absent, he did instill good in Reed Richards. The Maker's father despised his son for his gift, and he grew up enveloped by shame. A desire to prove himself was not built for decent reasons. The Maker was willing to sacrifice everything to solve everything. Our Mr. Fantastic could never. His family, saving lives, means too much to him. And for everything that was said here, these are all the reasons why Victor Von Doom loathes Reed Richards. We cannot mention Reed without mentioning Doom and vice versa. These two, of course, are mirrors of each other, parallels, with some key differences that paint their worldview. Doom is a Romani man born under the regime of the Baron in Latveria, and his people were persecuted because of it. Or his parents were killed because of it. And so Doom seeks knowledge for power, so that he will never suffer under the hands of anyone else again. In fact, so that he may rule everyone. He desires control for power. Reed's father, while he did abandon him, was still a supportive person in his life for a time, and he grew up in America. Reed had the freedom to seek out knowledge for knowledge's sake. The two geniuses, of course, cross paths in college and both undergo traumatic accidents that shape the rest of their lives. But where Doom blames Reed for his problems, Reed blames himself for the accident. That's what it ends up being. Doom always blames others for his shortcomings, and Reed grows to become self-loathing and grows to place so much pressure on himself and his own mind that he ends up feeling this need to solve everything because he is so smart. For him, that's his responsibility, that's his guilt. Though we cannot mention Reed without Doom, Doom does not occupy space in Reed's head or in his life the way Richards does for Victor. Because he has a family to worry about. He has discoveries to make. He has a life to live. Doom, on the other hand, his purpose is to be better than Richards, to have Richards admit that Doom is better than him. And yet, after everything Victor has done to Reed, kidnapping his daughter, sending Franklin to hell, imprisoning his family, attacking the Four, in Secret Wars, even after Doom literally steals Reed's life, he takes Reed's children as his own, he takes Susan Storm as his wife, he imprisons Ben and Johnny, How does Reed repay Victor after having defeated the God Emperor? Reed fixes his face. Mr. Fantastic knows Doom's vanity. He knows his nemesis's greatest insecurity, and despite everything, he heals him. He changes Victor's life. Reed does not view Doom as an evil to be eradicated, and we see that in North's run as well. Reed is the only person who sees Victor as a great man who hasn't been good. He sees the potential for goodness in someone even as troubled as Victor Von Doom. That is Reed Richards.